her handwriting in a red felt pen. If it had been written by my teacher 20 years ago, that felt would have disappeared 20, 15 years back, but I say all this to say, just pushing the narrative like, this is who Samuel is. Man, let me tell you something. That was one of the most hurtful things to me. And I had to go back and confront my mother about that later on. I had to confront her and I said, hey, why did you do that? And she's like, what? She was acting like she didn't know what are you talking about? Then she finally said, Samuel, I don't know how to stop it. Now, that's the scary part to me, because here's the thing. Talking to my therapist, I had asked her about, she was the one that showed me and explained to me by a book. She never said it. She let me read it on my own, what narcissism was. And I say to myself, how can a person be so mean or so cruel to their children in this way? Because I would never do that to my child. I would never want to break my child's spirit. I would never want to hurt them in such a way that they get a negative thought about themselves. It's already tough enough being a black person in America, but to sit back and have your own parents tell you and feed you this ideology that you're a loser, or that you're, that you're not worthy of certain things. It's a horrible feeling. But I read and I always read, and I went through YouTube videos, countless hours of videos, and I looked and I said, where does a person when does a narcissist change? And you know what? The saddest thing is, unfortunately, they don't. And that's what's hurtful. That's what is the most hurtful thing. A narcissist doesn't change. A narcissist doesn't feel necessarily remorse about what they've done or what they said. A narcissist is a narcissist, and they don't and they don't feel and they don't get cured. She's never known that to happen. I sat back and I went to counsel. They've never healed, because you know what? Their feeling is that they are that person. They are never wrong. And that's sad. It's sad. I would always think that, like, for instance, I've changed. I've grown over certain things. I've had certain attitudes and ideas about a certain person or a certain subject or things. And then later on, I've learned and said to myself, no way. That was wrong. I was wrong when I said this. I should have never even thought that way. I never looked at it from this perspective. But here we go. I have this same thing going on with my family. And here I am in my 50s. My mother is in her 80s. Father's in his 80s. They're not changing. They're not changing. They don't look that way. So I decided myself personally to go with what they call no contact. I had chosen to have no contact with family members that have that idea that I am this person and this is who I am, and you are never going to change. And my life has been a lot more for the better for it. It's very hurtful at times to not think about being with the members, family members again, or hanging with them, or, as I may have mentioned before, Mother's Day or Father's Day, not saying anything, not being able to go, hey, happy Mother's Day, or when I hear someone's lost their mother, like my wife. Beautiful family. One of the first things that I did when I manifested my wife up, one of the first things that I did when I was manifesting her up, I was praying to God and I was saying that there is a mother out there who would love to have a son-in-law like me. And she's got a fine daughter. That was what I manifested. And sure enough, I have one of the greatest mother-in-laws ever. One of the absolute greatest mother-in-laws ever. And She has a fine daughter that I married. So I sit back and I say to myself with that manifestation that it's things that I've learned in the past. I have changed over some of my ideas on what I thought was right or wrong, and I learned to grow over things. It just really hurts me that a narcissist like a leopard can't change the spots. And it's hurtful when it's your own mother and or father and your brothers or sisters, siblings are involved in it. The sad thing is that the narcissist builds up the scapegoat child to be the person who's the bad one in the family. And then what you have is enablers who hear that, like your siblings who sit back there and they feed into that. Yeah, he is a loser. Yeah, he is. And sometimes, unfortunately, the enablers can be worse than the narcissists themselves, because the enabler is working that much more harder to prove their worth to the narcissist. And they do that through pressing hard on the victim, the scapegoat of the narcissist. It sounds funny. It sounds crazy to even hear it. But when I started reading this from one of the books that I received and started going through countless videos and other books that I've read of narcissism, it sounds totally unbelievable until you see it, until you live it and experience it for yourself. Even right now, to sit back there, those who do know my mother and my father, they would say, no, no, no. He and she are great characters in the community. They do this, they do that. They would never see it. Gaslighting. Being gaslit is one of the most horrible things that I could ever think of, that makes you growing up not believe stuff that you think is that I witnessed. There are things that I witnessed, that I experienced, and I sat back and I would reflect to my mother sometimes and say, hey, you remember this time when this happened? That didn't happen, Samuel. Samuel, that didn't happen. That gaslighting stuff was horrible. It hurt a lot. And as an adult, recognizing that I've been gaslit all of my life, man, it's very hurtful. It's very hurtful. And it's almost one of those things, the word is insidious. It's just insidious. And I sit back and I say, man, I'm a forgiving, peace-loving person, but some of that stuff, it's almost like I can't forgive. I can't forgive because I sure can't forget it. Because how do I go talk to a person who's gaslit me my whole life and have a conversation, a normal conversation? How do you do that? I don't. I can't. And it hurts because I have a wife whose family is just wonderful. And when they come to visit, my mother-in-law, she's like, Sammy, I'd like to pay, pay my respects to your mother and father. If you don't mind, while we're here, I'd like to go visit your mother and father. And, they live only 5 miles, away from my home. And I say, well, I'm not talking to them right now, but if you'd like to go, I can drop you off the house. I'm not talking to my mother or my father. And I had to say that. And I had to continually say that because they wanted to make sure they paid their respects while they were visiting from out of town to our family, because that's what good parents do. They go and they say, hey, I'd like to see your family and speak. And it's been hurtful because I have to sit back there and say, my family's kind of jacked up. Sucks. Absolutely sucks. But that's that, and I don't want to get any more deeper into that. I am happy it's Friday, and as I said before, I am happy to be me. I'm going to have a good Friday, and I'm going to call a friend right now, and I wish you all the best. Got my chocolate chip cookie I'm going to eat, and I'm going to have a great day. You too. Take care. Sammy D, and I'm out.